He's been a political strategist for years. He's been the consultant to any number of high-profile figures who've excelled in politics, in government, and through the culture. He joins us regularly. He knows the X's and O's of everything you need to know if you want to get a bill passed, or you want to get a candidate elected, or you want to get redistricting done. He is the man. Richard Greene, the Civic's Dean. Hello, sir.
Hey, Mark. How you doing, buddy?
I'm well. I have a lot to ask you about. And Kim, you're going to help me with this too, because I remember we wanted to call Richard in because there was a question.
Yeah.
Do you recall last week the question for Richard?
We have the story that the states of Ohio and Alabama could potentially leave President Biden off the ballot come November. And the folks that will decide whether or not he makes it onto the ballot are Republicans. And so I thought, how is this even possible? And Mark's like, we got to call Richard Greene, the Civics Dean, to find out what's going on.
Well, the answer is it's possible.
What?
No, it's totally possible, which is so ironic because every Republican was literally going crazy that Colorado and Maine were going to leave their Lord and Savior Donald Trump off the ballot there because, oh, by the way, he created an insurrection against the United States. But Joe Biden's crime, apparently, according to Republicans, is far worse. His party scheduled their convention after their completely arbitrary, absolutely not necessary, very early deadlines to have finalized who the Democratic and Republican candidates are. And of course, in July, the Republicans will have Donald Trump and some even crazier human being, and they're going to be on the ballot in those two states. But Joe Biden will not have that confirmed until mid-August after the Democratic convention in Chicago. So under the Constitution gives every one of the 50 states pretty much free rein to do whatever they want in terms of how they organize and conduct their elections. So, but the bottom line, Kim, is there is zero chance that Joe Biden wins Alabama. His being off the ballot there is not going to change the election. There is close to zero chance that he would win Ohio, but that if he did win Ohio, he wins the election. So that's the background.
What about this whole argument? I'm sorry, Mark. What about this whole argument with the Republicans were saying, well, the reason that Trump should be left on the ballot, despite the insurrection clause, is because it should be up to the voters to decide, right? We're taking away the right for the voters to make their voices heard. Well, then the same people that say that will turn around and say, well, I'm sorry, but you've skirted the dates on this issue. So apparently the voters can be heard when it comes to Trump, but the voters can't be heard when it comes to Biden.
So Kim, can we have a talk, just you and me?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have this beautiful, naive idea that the Republican Party cares at all about being hypocrites. Oh. They don't. They don't. That's it.
Well, I mean, the evidence of that is the Supreme Court appointment. I mean, it's you saw it at the highest level in perhaps the most consequential way there. So,
Mark, I'm so impressed. The history you're talking about. No, that's really good, man. You're talking about Merrick Garland, and you can't do this right before an election, and then of course they did it again with Amy Coney Barrett, when Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I mean,
that was right before an election. I mean, my God, that was, it was weeks before an eletion. The other one was,
voting had already started. So again, if you get in your head that Republicans and Democrats have different values, God bless it. This is America, right? We have a choice. We can choose our politicians and our political parties based upon their values and their policies. But I am telling you that the Republicans have no shame, from my perspective, and I think it's borne out by the facts. They have no shame, and they don't care if they're hypocrites. They just want to win. And that's why Mitch McConnell has been the longest serving Senate Majority Leader, because he is really, really, really good at being even more Machiavellian than Machiavelli.
Yeah.
Question about Ohio. Is it a winner-take-all state when it comes to electors? So that if Trump wins in Ohio, there would be no electors for President Biden there anyway?
Right. So great question. There are 48 winner-take-all states. All of the states except for Maine and Nebraska. And you may have heard news that Trump team is saying that one electoral vote, which would be determined by who wins the congressional district in Omaha, which is their biggest city and it's blue, that Nebraska has to change that because it literally could be that because of Bobby Kennedy and Cornel West and Jill Stein and other factors, that one congressional seat, that one electoral vote in Nebraska could literally determine who wins the election.
Whoa.
The other state that does that is Maine. So the way Maine and Nebraska work is whoever wins the state gets X amount of votes, and then it's divided amongst the congressional districts, whoever wins the congressional, and then that totals their total.
Yeah. Thank you.
The third parties to which you referred, I wonder if you can just review for us the way in which third-party candidates leave aside whatever issues they want to get on the table. I see, you want to get certain things into the public discourse that you feel haven't been represented sufficiently. You want to essentially lean into certain aspects of the discussion when it comes to maybe it's Gaza, maybe it's the way COVID was handled. I mean, I feel like those are two things that register with the RFK Jr. people of the world. But anyway, question is, how do those third-party candidates, the Cornel Wests, et cetera, affect the two main candidates and the ultimate goal of getting the Electoral College votes necessary to become president?
Determinative, decisive. We have 5 U.S. Supreme Court justices currently on the United States Supreme Court who were the majority to deprive women of their reproductive rights, who were the majority to deprive African Americans and others of their voting rights, who were the majority on so many issues, right? Throwing down, killing environmental legislation, killing good gun legislation, all of that, who were appointed by 2 presidents who did not win the national popular vote. Al Gore won the popular vote, beat George W. Bush by about 500,000 votes. That's not nothing. And then we all know Hillary Clinton beat the Orange Man by 2.9 million votes, popular votes. But because of third-party candidates, we lost women's rights. We've lost almost all progressive rights because these 2 people, George W. Bush and Donald Trump, were in office to appoint 5 very, very right-wing conservative justices. And here's how it happened. Ralph Nader, you remember, how many votes because of his third-party candidacy? Do you know how many votes George Bush won Florida and thereby the election by?
How many?
537. I mean, literally, if they were very cozy, they could all probably squish in your studio and do a little nudist colony cuddle puddle like you were just talking about. So
wow,
it's
a wild idea. It just might work.
So it's a small number of people. So that was in 2000. In 2016, Hillary Clinton lost in 3 states by an aggregate total of 78,000 votes. Each of those states, Jill Stein, the traitor to the United States, who literally has dinner with Vladimir Putin, Jill Stein of the Greene Party. Oh, I want to vote Green. They're for the environment. No. Jill Stein elected Donald Trump and destroyed 4 years of us being able to do things about the environment. Jill Stein got more votes than the margin of difference in each of the states of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Had Jill Stein not been on the ballot, third-party candidate, we likely would have had Al Gore and, of course, Al Gore and Hillary Clinton and a completely different Supreme Court and a completely different country. That's how
Well, you
significant.
would have had no war in Iraq. You would have had a lot of things that
Oh, 100%.
would be totally
100%.
different, as you say. And it's interesting, you just because we're on the Supreme Court, it's worth a mention. One of my great concerns, clearly, the taking of women's reproductive rights is a front and center issue. But slowly, this court is attempting to undermine the government's ability to regulate toxins in the environment, in the soil, in the water, in the air. It's an absolute travesty what's happening at the Supreme Court level, a bought and paid for activist court. And you're seeing consumer protections that are being removed. If you want, banks and corporate polluters to be able to have their way with this country, then you've got the court, because the court is going to dismantle and undermine the ability of government to regulate any of those protections that we enjoy. So it's interesting, the Jill Stein thing is interesting to me because she's so much a fixture of the third party world. You know what I mean? She's been running third party for a while, Richard Greene. Can I just ask you, what's the story with the Green Party? Like, what do they get done? I feel wildly, underprepared to talk Green Party, but I ask you, beyond affecting elections, what do they stand for? I mean, is there tightness with Putin, as you say, the result of some fealty to communism, or a feeling that socialism should be a bigger part of the American body politic? What is it?
So first of all, let me tell you that not because it's my last name, but I actually was amongst the first official Green Party candidates, congressional candidates in California in 1992.
Wow.
What?
So you are definitely the guy to ask about this. Okay.
Right. But now I think they're traitors, and I am disgusted by them. The good thing about the Green Party, and you can see what it has done in Europe, is it has brought in a whole new awareness about environmental issues and integrating environmental awareness and issues into local and perhaps state governments. But because of the Electoral College, the stupid, racist Electoral College, it does not work in a presidential campaign. And I remember 4 years ago, I got to talk to some of the top Green Party people in the country. And I begged them, I said, listen, I love what you're trying to do. We all need to focus more on the environment. We have a party for that right now. It's called the Democratic Party. They're not as far to the left as you might like, but they're eons further than the Republican Party, and it's a binary choice. Why would you run? And their answer, which is kind of Bobby Kennedy's answer, which is Cornel West's answer, who had the most disgusting, racist, anti-Semitic interview I have ever seen, when he was on with Abby Phillip on CNN over the weekend. This man is a monster. He literally—
Cornel West you're talking about.
Cornel West, right? But they're all going to be grouped together. They're all going to take votes away from Joe Biden in the swing states. Bobby predominantly, Jill Stein almost exclusively, Cornel West exclusively, right? Their idea, it's like they're 4-year-old frickin' children, is, well, we need to have new voices in America. We need to have more than just this Republican, Democratic uniparty. It's not a uniparty. The differences between the Republicans and the Democrats is almost night and day on virtually every issue. But we believe in freedom of choice. We want people to be able to share what it is that they care about. And when I share with them, it's, listen, then why don't you run in every state, knock yourself out, every state except for swing states, then you can have your cake and eat it too. No, we want to be seen as a legitimate party. I said, but you're not. You're effing it up for everyone, and you're losing respect. And Jill Stein, I don't know if she's being paid by Putin. We know that Russia and very wealthy Republicans are putting money into, a lot of campaigns to defeat Joe Biden, probably including Jill Stein's. But I have something scarier for you. You want to be scared even more?
Oh, great. Yeah, go ahead. Finish strong. Stick the landing with something really scary.
So speaking of Vladimir Putin, who is Donald Trump's, I think, puppet master and certainly his hero, if not that. If the quote unquote Supreme Court, we're talking about the Supreme Court, if the Supreme Court of Russia, to the extent there is such a thing, told Vladimir Putin, no, you can't do this. It's against Russian federal law. What do you think Vladimir Putin would do?
He'd ignore it, or he'd get a new court.
Thank you. Exactly. What enforcement mechanisms does the Supreme Court of the United States have to rein in dictator on day one, and I suspect it'll be more than day one, Donald J. Trump? What's their enforcement mechanism?
You can tell me. I assume they
Zero.
nothing. Yeah.
Nothing. They don't have a police force. They have a few people to protect the building and protect the justice. They don't have a police force. They don't have an army. The only way to enforce a Supreme Court judgment against Donald Trump, against any of the cabinet members, against any of the fascists that Donald Trump is going to give power to in the next 4 years, the only way is through the Justice Department, which is the law enforcement arm of the federal government, who would be run by who?
By Trump, of course. It would
By Trump. And who's the head of the Justice Department?
Well,
Little civic quiz.
It'll be an attorney general that he'll put in place.
Who would only be chosen if he agreed to do what?
Right, fealty to Trump, to get rid
100%.
of... Yeah, right.
Right. So the Supreme Court issues something to preserve our democracy, to preserve our balance of powers, and the checks and balances. And Trump says, F you, calls up his attorney general and said, do nothing about that. Otherwise, I'm going to find another attorney general. People have no idea how close we actually are to literal definitional authoritarianism, totalitarianism, and fascism. And that is even worse than a Supreme Court, because Supreme Court means nothing to a dictatorial leader.
That's both fascinating, chilling, and it's also, I think, reflective of the strategic designs that Trump has already in place, both in his mind and with his hench people. I mean, he has Bannon, of course, ready to go, Miller ready to go. He has a band of lawyers who are ready to dismantle the Justice Department, or they're already hiring, as you know, for the 2025 plan to populate government with all those people who are loyalists. And that really is the... And I have a friend who works at Justice during the Trump administration who told me, he said, Mark, there's a guy here who doesn't... I don't even think he's a lawyer. He said he's looking at different cases that we're working on, making sure that there are no ties to... there was like a code for it, but friends of Trump, essentially. So it was you see how, as you suggest, unless we have an understanding that we're going to adhere to the rule of law and the Constitution, pretty easy to turn the whole place over and become a dictator.
And the truth is, Donald Trump could get a copy of this tape and say to his attorney general, this Mark Thompson guy, man, he is such a lefty. We got to take him down. Go through his records, find out if he's ever done anything wrong. Oh, and Richard Greene, yeah, he's on our list for a long time. No, I mean, this shit can happen. It can happen. And that's why it's so important that we had that earlier part of our conversation, which is if you are in a swing state or you're okay, good. If you're in a swing state or you know anyone, a son, a daughter, a mother, a father, whatever, who is in a swing state and they are going, oh, I love Bobby Kennedy, or I love Jill Stein, or I hate Democrats and Republicans. We need to educate people about civics and how much authoritarian power can be seized by someone who learned his lessons in his first 4 years, knows now how to go around the system, and will only hire anyone and everyone who is totally obeisant to him and bows at his feet. There'll be no more General Mattis's. There'll be no more Chief of Staff John Kelly. Who knows who's in charge of the nuclear weapons?
Well, when you're in control of the military, you are in control. I mean, I'm sorry, it's that simple. And everything else is around the edges. If Trump controlled the military, could get the military to essential, and then more loyalists were occupying positions of power within the military, then it's game over.
And let's say the people in the military, the soldiers, don't want to do that. You then keep hiring defense ministers who will literally discipline the people who are not doing the things that their leader, Donald Trump. This is classic fascism and how it happens through military operations and
It's so
others.
slow moving, this train wreck, and yet people seem to. And then I get this: Calvin is shadow producer Calvin Wong. Trump already used the Justice Department after his political enemies. Who thinks he won't repeat it? Exactly. And then,
Well, at a whole nother level.
yeah, at a whole other level. Military
Sorry,
isn't
guys.
supposed to obey unlawful orders, says Josh. Yeah, but that is
Good luck with that. How you going to
Yeah.
enforce that, Josh?
Yeah.
With
I
an
love that.
attorney general and a chief and a defense secretary who are only going to do what Donald Trump says.
The official trolls of the show, one of them is Andrew. He calls you a commie, of course, because that's like the
That's me. I'm a commie.
yeah. It's crazy. Why would, by the way, just to think that through, it's such a. I love that they go to that in the flamethrower, in the rhetorical flamethrower. Why would he be talking about the Constitution and following the Constitution if he were a commie? Commies don't, communist likes the central state to control, want to take, if we really want to talk about communism, I'd be happy to. He's trying to talk you off authoritarianism, not toward authoritarianism. And every communist regime worldwide is pretty much authoritarian. The thing I like about Richard is that he shows the math. He's just told you and shown you exactly state by state how it happens. That's why I asked him about the Electoral College. I saw something here, and he's not trolly. He's kind of more a provocateur at times, Randy, who writes, I'm tired of hearing that a presidential candidate didn't win the popular vote. That's not the system we have. Stop bitching about the Electoral College and go win within that system. I'll let you respond, but I just want to say, I think bitching about an effed up system like the Electoral College is something we should do and never stop doing it until this ridiculous, antiquated, ultimately racist system is taken down. I'll never stop talking about the fact that North Dakota and South Dakota should be one state and only get 2 senators. I won't be silenced on Washington, D.C. and the fact that they have no ability to vote in Congress because of politics. They have more people living in Washington, D.C. than in Wyoming and I think 10 other states. So don't tell me don't stop squawking about the Electoral College. I won't until it goes away. Now, Richard, please.
So call me old-fashioned, but I actually believe in the values and the ethics and the promise of America that as the world's first real democracy, that everyone is equal, that every vote counts equally. And it is repugnant to that to say that only the voters in 7 states are going to be able to choose the next president. It is repugnant to me that because of slavery, all the way back in the 1700s, and the unwillingness of the slave states to ever allow a system to happen in the United States government where they weren't going to be allowed to have slaves, that they rigged the Electoral College in terms of who could be president. They rigged the United States Senate so that small, red, rural slave-owning states could have more power and not be overpowered by the big industrial blue states. So, and oh, by the way, when the Constitution, which gave you this Electoral College that you so love, was created, Black people was it 3/5 human? Women couldn't even vote. Is that what you want? Maybe we could evolve to the point where, like, hey, let's have everyone vote. And so if everyone votes and your Lord and Savior Donald Trump wins, awesome. Great.
Right.
That's our system, right? I believe in democracy. So I'm a big D Democrat and I'm a little D Democrat, and I'm not a communist. But I have one thing to tell you and your friends and fans. There actually is an effort that is very close to being successful that no one knows about because we don't talk about civics except my buddy Mark Thompson. And it's called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. It is a compact amongst states. And again, remember what I said at the beginning, Under the Constitution, states are given full authority within some limits to decide how to give their electoral votes during a presidential election, right? This bill, it's called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, started in 2006. It's been signed into law by 16 states, including California and Washington, D.C. We have a total of 205 electoral votes, these 16 states plus D.C. If we get states, their legislatures, to pass this bill and their governors to sign this bill, that equals 65 or more electoral votes. And that could be 2 states. That could be Texas and Florida, and it's done, or some smaller states. We will elect our next president in 2028 by a national popular vote, and we'll be done with this racist, anti-democratic, insane electoral college system.
Wow, that is extraordinary, and it doesn't get enough.
And
play.
Last point, there are enough state legislators on the ballot in states that are close to doing this, which happen to be the swing states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, to actually make this happen in this election. Thank you. In this election, if young people and other people who care about the equality of voting and citizenship got out and voted for, of course, Joe Biden or whoever they wanted, but they also voted for Democrats, because only Democrats want this to happen, because Lord and Savior of the Republican Party, Donald Trump, knows he and Republicans can't win under this system. But if people who get out and vote for this and vote for state legislators who will pass this bill, we literally can be done with the Electoral College this year. That's it. No more. Bye-bye.
My other designated troll is Chris, who writes, the founders were not fools. Actually, the founders, he's just told you a bunch of stuff about the founders that would suggest that they were fools in some ways. I know you like to deify these things because that's sort of, it's so much easier if we somehow elevate the founders as infallible. But the reality is that they didn't recognize black people. They didn't recognize women. I mean, come on, Chris, what are you talking about? They were not fools. They had some pretty big blind spots. And
well, reflective of the times.
Of course,
right?
Reflective of the times. But I'm just saying that those blind spots or those reflections of the time cannot endure. They need to be changed, as you said. And they've created a document that is changeable. That was the idea. You want a king called California and New York?
No, I don't.
One person, one vote. By the way, on the Electoral College being corrupted, I love this comment from Karen Cooper. The GOP wanted to corrupt the Electoral College last election and would have if they could. The Electoral College is outdated. Everyone is able to vote. So just use the popular vote. Yeah, exactly. Use the popular vote. Anyway.
And by the way, I don't know any young person who understands why we have an Electoral College system. And I've had young people tell me, well, I don't vote because my vote doesn't count. And I mean, that's very demotivating. That causes people to not feel like they want to engage in the system. And even in states, for example, that are not swing states like California, the future of the House of Representatives, the future of women's reproductive rights, the future of so many things that you care about can only happen if you get out and vote in California for Congress candidates who can then flip the House and be able to pass these pieces of legislation, which will never be able to be done if Republicans hold on to the control of the House. So we're all in this together. I love that. I want every vote to count. I want third parties to get the hell out of presidential elections. They can do whatever they want in state and local elections. And I love how you're helping me help educate people, because we don't talk about this stuff near enough.
Well, I'm looking forward to the next time as well. I hope I hope you make time in your schedule to visit again. We love it when you come through. So
when Mark Thompson texts me, I adjust my whole schedule. You know that.
Let it always be so, sir. Find Richard Greene, the Civics Dean, everywhere. He's a speaker. He's active on social media. Google him. Embrace him, support him. Yeah.
At Civics Dean, on TikTok at Civic Scene. And the last one I posted was an awesome, adorable TikTok which is already starting to go viral with my 94-year-old mom, who you've met, Mark.
Oh, she's terrific. Yeah.
About her
Google
view on Donald Trump's criminal trial today.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. All right. At, what is it?
Civics Dean.
At Civics. There it is. Or it's on screen now. At Civics Dean on TikTok. Thank you, Richard Greene. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.